business is a game of relationships. And just like relationships in general, not everyone is going to, have that connection or feel supported. And this comes into things of like, communicating with your leads and customers through AI, where it's hands off and it just knows how to conversate so that you can get it to the outcome. There's an economy of scale from the technology. And so from that perspective, we've been able to grow where other companies have to charge a significant amount of money for the same technology stack. We've been able to offer it at such an inexpensive rate that really every business in the world can leverage.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
One thing that I like to tell entrepreneurs is, the game of entrepreneurship is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. And, stop trying to compare yourself to what other people have done or in how long they've done it.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Athin Cassiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. His name is Robin Alex, and he's the co-founder of HighLevel, an all-in-one platform which empowers businesses to grow their businesses by generating reviews from their customers, managing their listings across 80 plus sites on the web, creating and managing conversations with their customers via all of the channels, including social, SMS, and Google My Business. And they offer a custom set of products companies can deploy literally within hours to help them add real revenue to their bottom line. Welcome, Robin. Thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, mate. I'm sure it's going to be great for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, just introduce yourself by telling us a bit more about you and your journey.
Yeah. As you mentioned, with that as a mouthful of an intro, but you did it incredibly well. My name is Robin Alex. I am the co-founder of HighLevel, but prior to HighLevel, you know, since growing up, I've always been an entrepreneur of some sort. And, leaving high school, I started an online game server company and grew that decently to a decent size and actually was able to sell it. And without realizing it, that was my quote unquote first exit. And, it helped pay for some school and then got into, doing some internships and things like that. And it's where I kind of really got in the passion and really understanding a couple things. One, it's what's the difference of being an entrepreneur, intrapreneur, but then also understanding how businesses actually think from a strategic perspective, how technology plays an important factor into it. And so through that journey, I got into IT consulting, and at that time, many businesses were spending lots of money in updating their technology, whether it was their computers, their servers, it spent hundreds of thousands of dollars replacing servers in a closet, which is unheard of these days. But, back then that was a big thing. And while they were doing that, they also had parallel tracks of digital transformation. I don't know if you remember that term, but that was a big thing. But how can you update your website and, build the digital presence and be on Facebook and all those different things? So while I was working on the technology side, with the computers and servers, these companies were coming to me because I had a trusted relationship saying, "Hey, we're getting these massive quotes. What do you think?" And I remember at that time, getting them and it's like, wow, they're charging a lot of money. And when you look at the deliverables, it's like, oh, well, I mean, it can't be that hard. I can do it myself. And I remember, just there was one opportunity where I got, and it's like, you know what? I can do it if you allow me. And I'll just do it and we'll see what happens. And I remember going through that whole process and I enjoyed it and learned a lot of, you end up doing more than you budget for. You deal with scope creep and things like that. And then after that, it's, well, what next? What happens? And that was kind of the first time of dealing with feast and famine. You win a big project and it's great, and then what next? I started picking up projects, building databases, and doing some back end development work for different businesses. But really, what I learned was to get out of the feast and famine cycle. It's how do I get closer to the businesses that I've helped and consulted and get as close as I can to the revenue line. And what that means is how do I help businesses solve the problem of sales? And that starts at the top of the funnel where you need to create more awareness, create leads and opportunities. And once those leads and opportunities come in with a lot of people who have interest in your business, how do you make sure that you give them an inspiring delivery so that the customer feels almost obligated to buy from you? And then from there, they become so vocal, they become evangelist of your business to then shout out to the top of the roof on, hey, this is another business that you should also do. And so looking at that, I built out a couple models and started growing a whole team. And at its peak, we were representing about, 200, 300 customers around the world, a team of 25. global staff, and did incredibly well. And through that model, we were actually working on creating this technology stack of gluing, all the different big software applications and then using APIs to connect it all. And it was a beast, but that's what we were known for, and it had incredible success with it. But what was fun about that journey was I received a call from a customer of mine who said, "Hey, there's these two gentlemen who are trying to launch a software. They're fairly new. I don't know much about it, but can you get them connected? Because I know how to run my business. I don't know technology. You're managing it. Talk to them, give them access so that they can set it up. It sounds promising." So I remember getting on the call with them and got them access, and we just started hitting it off. And it was an interesting call. We just started talking, and I was telling them what we do, how we do it, and things like that. And um, actually, 2 weeks prior in our conference room, we had taken like a schematic of our whole operation of all the technology and how we think that we should roll it out, for the next customer, and turned it into a blueprint. And I remember walking in during the conversation and taking a picture and then bringing it back, getting on Zoom and showing it to the two guys. And they were like, "Oh, this doesn't look too complicated. Let's get back to you in a couple of days." And I remember thinking, "Okay, that's an interesting response, but maybe they're just brushing me off." For all you know, you get on a call with somebody, they could be working for Megacorp, or they have other clients, other priorities. Like, this is just a weird ask. And surprisingly, a couple days later, I remember I was driving to the office. It was 8 a.m. my time, and I got a call from one of these individuals who happened to be Sean Clark. Um, and he called me. He's like, "Hey man, can you get on a call? I'd love to show you what we did." And I just remember to this day of like that was the strangest opening delivery on a phone call, because my response to him was like, who is this again? What are we talking about? Like, you're gonna have to give me some context." He's like, "Oh, no, no, no. Remember we spoke a couple of days ago. We were trying to figure out, how to do this software application. I want to show you something." And I did kind of the same thing of like, "Sure, yeah, give me a little bit of time. I'm headed to the office and I'll call you as soon as I got in, or until I get in." And I remember getting to the office, and of course, I completely forgot about it. I brushed it off. Got in my morning coffee, talking to the team. We're starting our morning huddles, and 10 o'clock rolls around. And I remember starting the meeting, and then I get this call. It's like, ignore. And then, just not in the mode of thinking. And then another call comes in. And then I was like, hold on, everyone. I remember taking the call, and he's like, "Hey, you were supposed to get on a call. Where are you at?" I was like, "Okay, team, you guys keep forward. Let me go answer this call." And I got on a call, and it was both Sean and Varun, who are my now new two co-founders. And they had taken what we created in a schematic, and they were able to place together what they were building to evolve it into what HighLevel is. And many of the core functionality at that time is what HighLevel is today. And I was just mind blown, like, "Oh my gosh, how could you, put this together so quickly?" And I have a tech background. I've done development and stuff, and I was just in shock of what they were able to produce. But we were talking through it, and I basically said, "Let's take this and roll it out to a couple of customers and see if we can get success, and kind of pressure test it, see if it works." Immediate success. Then we went back to that co-customer we had. Immediate success. And I basically told him, like, "I want to buy this for all of my customers. You guys are saving so much for me. Can we work that up?" And then on top of that, I want to, like, you guys have just delivered me so much value. Can I give this to other people? Can I tell them about it? Can I get them in contact? I know a lot of networks and things like that. And from that point on, we just started working together. And what was fun about that journey is the first group of people that I've sent it out to, there was probably about 20 individuals that we reached out to and offered them this really exclusive deal of testing it out as a beta tester and such. And as entrepreneurs, we tend to say more yeses than we should. And out of the 20, 13 of them, well, all of them said yes, of course. 13 of them took it seriously, and partly because I was nudging them to like, "Did you try it? Did you try it? Did you try it?" And they all came back and said it was amazing. And one of those 13 had recently transitioned and sold their business and was becoming a business consultant and a business coach. And he said, "Oh my gosh, this is the most incredible thing. If I had this in my business, you would have saved me close anywhere from 40 to $50,000 a month just with this simple software." And we were just mind blown. We didn't know if it was a little bit of puffery there, just trying to make us feel good. But he said, "No, no, no. In all actuality, I am hosting an event in January. I'd love for you guys to come, present the software, and just as good value." And so that we said yes, of course. And then that was the first time that Sean and I met in person. We met, and literally on the flight there, I'm creating a website just so that we can take orders and things like that. We didn't know what to expect, but of course you need a website. So literally on the flight, created it, and we get there. I was talking to Sean and Varun all night. Varun, who's in Qatar, we dialed in remotely, and we're just talking. Of course, we're not talking anything about the presentation. We didn't even think about what we're gonna do. And I remember we get to the event, and they finally call Sean and me up because we both are in person. We stand up, and Varun, who's on the screen behind us, was just watching via camera, and we didn't have a presentation made. All that we did was just share a screen and just say, all right, we're just gonna do a quick demo of the software. Rolled through the demo and it did it in about 12 minutes. And we were just like, all right, well, any questions? And the room was silent. And we're like, okay, well, thanks everyone. We're just gonna sit back down. And that was gonna be a success for us, right? Like we got to do a launch. And as soon as we said, all right, we're done, everyone's like, no, 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 hold on, hold on. We're looking at your website. Like, do you guys offer it for this price? Or what about this? And do you guys have an annual package? And I remember just looking at, Sean next to me and Varun on the camera, like, yes, we do. And I like slithered away back to the computer and added new plans and new offerings. And what amazing about that event is that I think there was 20 people at the event and 20 people virtually. Nearly everyone bought. I think 38, 39 people bought at that event, and the last person came in a week later. And from that point on, Sean Vern and I would manually onboard every single person, and and even today as a business, now that we've grown, we still follow that same model. We want to talk and onboard every single customer. And from that, the strategy was if we can get to a point of success with every customer, let's ask if they know anyone else that would love the software. And we got really confident with it to where, do you at least know two people? Knowing that at least they'll give us one. And we just got so good at that. And people would just start bringing people on the call and saying, hey, you should talk to them. I got to bounce. I got to jump to another call. Can you take it on? And we would just pitch the product to them. And from there, here we are coming up on year seven, well over 100,000 customers, a team of over 1,800 people around the world, 22 countries. Um, just 5 million users on the platform, just all from that simple, launch that we did. And, so from that point, it's been an awesome journey and we're excited to keep going.
Yeah, awesome, man. What an amazing story of how it comes about. I always love to hear that. And how, yeah, it's just like you didn't necessarily look for each other, but it just worked. Like you just clicked and you were solving a problem, right? At its core there and putting your skills together. And that quick action is, where it's obviously, built from together, from there on, which is amazing. So thank you. Thank you for sharing the background on it. Um, so let's talk a little bit more maybe about what HighLevel does, right? And I'd love to know from your perspective because I did a little bit of an intro, obviously, about the platform, but it is a bit of it's an all-in-one type platform that can do stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit more about like what it can do and why it's important or different? You know what I mean? From what else is like out there, in the market.
Yeah, so when we launched, no one was really banging their head on their desk or clamoring for yet another CRM product. What we were really solving for is a couple things. One, we started out in the marketing agency space where we wanted to have a tool that can be white labeled so that you can put your brand on it. Because what we learned at that time is marketing agencies and implementers, technology providers, whoever it is who's helping businesses had to look at what was online, what was available, and refer products to a business. And then the transaction and solving for it was interesting. You'd have to pay the individual or the company to be a consultant, so you have a relationship with them. And then the business is also paying for the software. So it's kind of two transactions to handle an outcome. And what would happen is to get this conversation started, there's a little bit of a indirect promise. I'm going to pay dollars here to make money. And through that process, as a consultant, you have to do the due diligence of doing the work, building the software, setting it up for the business needs and things. And every business has a share of wallet issue. There's only a finite amount that they're willing to spend every month before they're like, I'm not getting an ROI. I got to cut it off. Well, call it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. They are setting it all up. And by the time they're ready to actually do marketing to help grow the business is like, I forgot what we're doing while we're doing it. I'm gonna have to separate my ways with you, consultant or consulting group, but I'm gonna continue paying for the software because you did all this hard work. So at the end of the day, the person that did all the hard work gets kicked to the curb, And the software company says, sorry, but we're going to win and take that. So that was an important reason on why we wanted to white label it, because for a consulting group or an agency or a technology partner or freelancer, gives them the ability to own the IP and what they're delivering, because that strategy is super valuable. And so if they need to stop the professional services, you can still keep that consultant revenue from the software side of things. So that was an important piece to it. And then over time, we just realized that there's an economy of scale from the technology. And so from that perspective, we've been able to grow where other companies have to charge a significant amount of money for the same technology stack. We've been able to offer it at such an inexpensive rate that really every business in the world can leverage. And we can stack up tool for tool against the biggest companies like a HubSpot or Salesforce, that's out there. And we're doing it at a inexpensive price with a ton of value that can't be matched.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love that, man. Very, very powerful. And just talk a little bit about, I guess, the agency side of things, right? Because I know that technically someone can sign up directly, right? If they want to, whether it's the smaller plan or a bit bigger one. But then obviously you've got the agency model and they go underneath. And you mentioned around obviously it's a great way for them to be part of that business and install that IP. I guess it's also from maybe like a support perspective, right? And on an ongoing sense, compared to you guys directly, compared to the agencies and things like that. And maybe I don't know if anyone's thinking about, oh, but what if I'm under that account? What happens with my IP as a business or things like that? So I'd just like to know your thoughts because I'm just, when I speak to people, there's just these little questions that people have, right, on the model and everything like that. I'm interested to hear, yeah, your response to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, from a support perspective, if you're with any company that's out there and you pick up the phone asking for help, you're basically raising the flag saying, I need help. And then the company is like, okay, who are you? What are you trying to do? Where you're basically starting from the very beginning. And then to get a successful support component, you need to have some domain experience. One, on how it was implemented, and then two, like what is the business use case to get to the outcome, right? And then that's how you can support it. Well, what we were trying to do is if you have boots on the ground or people that know your industry or people that are doing the implementation for it, they're able to cut so much of that noise out so that when you do raise the hand and say, I need help, they have a really good idea on what they need to do to help you solve the problem. So that is part of the other aspect of why we went down the approach that we did of working essentially with partners and they have ownership stake in what they're delivering out. And we kind of look at it as like we're like Mac or Windows, right? We're just an operating system and people can build on top of it. But the people that build on top of it need to provide support for what they build on top of it. And then, from a data perspective, I mean, it's no different than anything else. I mean, you have to look at the terms of the relationship that you have, and there's a cost associated to the support that you're providing as well as the ownership of data and who owns it. For us, we stay neutral. I mean, it's we have a relationship with the party that signs up with us, but if you sign up with that party, just make sure that you do your due diligence, just like anything else, who owns the data, in the aspect of a separation of some sort, there's cancellation, what are the process, what are the steps? And really every business owner should always be thinking about that, with employees or, God forbid, death or something like that, what are the transition plans? And it's just, making sure that you understand the margin of safety as you build your business.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love that. It's yeah, always got to be thinking ahead all these questions, right? And there's always ways to do it. And I know you can transfer accounts for an example, right? Like I had a client
Yeah.
before, being part of high level a little while ago, and I'm quite technical generally, and they had no this person was just non-existent, right? And I worked out, okay, they were with high level. I'm like, okay, well, I know someone that's a reputable agency person, right? I go, we can do the transfer process, and we just move the account across, and we ended up finally doing that, and then they're all good. They're getting the support they need, and for whatever reason that business had challenges. So it's not like being a sub account. Something's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? There's always a way to get other types of support, as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think where you always have to remember is that business is a game of relationships. And just like relationships in general, not everyone is going to have that connection or feel supported. And even though one party is trying to make it work, or both sides are trying to make it work, if you're not talking the same language or, working on the same path, it can be challenging. And so, us building tools like that account transfer and things like that, and also agencies feeling comfortable of letting, customers go so that they can get to success, that to me is always the winning solution because by holding people hostage or pulling people back, um you don't win, no one wins, right? And very much like a personal divorce or anything like that, there's no winners, only losers. And so if you can just let people go amicably, it may not be today, but maybe in the future they can come back. And so I think you win value points for the long run by going down that approach.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned a little bit about employees and stuff there as well. And I think, from the, you had your amazing event in Sydney that was out recently, and you created an amazing experience. It definitely was a wow experience with, um, how you delivered the event. You had, many support people on hand for people to ask questions, which I thought was brilliant. Just everything. You give little gifts, and I could tell the culture of the company and the people that were in the room, it was just a very uplifting, we're all here together to help each other, like type of culture, right? Which is amazing. So, um, you know, what do you think is some, ways that you're creating that? Because I think that that's really unique. And I think that's what a lot of businesses should be striving for, right? Is to do like that within their business. And you're a massive company, right? Like, over 1,000 employees, everything like that there to be able to create something like that. So, what tips can you give people or something so they can, create an amazing culture in their business?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's leaning into an organic version of culture. And what I mean by that is I know what I personally want when I have a business relationship, or if I go to an event, what am I expecting? And then, of course, I want to implement that and get the team involved. But at the same time, it's also listening. What do our customers ask for? What did they expect? What's going to make them have a delightful experience? What have you learned from other places? And incorporating all those is really what helps build culture. Where I've seen people struggle and where people also fail is they try to impress the culture coming from one person and almost forcing it down on everybody. And I think you have the ability to turn people off and have a distaste in their mouth because they don't feel a part of the culture. They just feel like culture is being doused on top of them. And so you have to create that community feel, which allows people to create their own cultural things. We had a person at the Sydney event, and she's also come to our large event in Dallas, and she uniquely came in with a Halloween costume at our Dallas event. And, I've been to events where, no, see, you signed a code of ethics that you cannot, stand out in the crowd and do something special. But for us, she felt it was important enough to stand out and create that. It wasn't, and so we leaned into it, and because I feel like she's trying to help uplift the community kind of in a unique way. So we just kind of leaned into it. And then the following year was amazing is like 20 people kind of followed along, and there was like an inner group of people trying to do it. This year we're expecting even more. But the fact that we're listening and opening and trying to get everyone to build this culture is really where I see success. If it's only one person trying to push it, it can only get so far, and it's hard to keep that consistency of people trying to make it even bigger and better from there.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love that. Very, very powerful. Let's talk about AI now. It's obviously the big
Yeah.
topic happening at the moment. With it's moving very fast, and I know you've got AI integrated right in HighLevel as well. So I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to share like what's the different types of AI and what we can do with it with HighLevel too?
Yeah, no, I think uh, where the world is going, AI is definitely the hot buzzword. But it's very similar to, in the previous couple of years, you've heard terms of moving to the cloud, um, blockchain, crypto, like there's always something hot that people are chasing. But for me, AI is definitely the hot word. There's a lot of cool advancements that's coming into it. But at the speed that it's going, it is becoming something so ubiquitous that, of course, there's AI into it. Like, what else would you expect? And what that means for us is really how do we take a system that traditionally you're going to have to click into menus, go into certain places, do certain actions, and it's very manual and it's very difficult to train and things like that. How can we make that even simpler and then have computers help get you to the outcome very quickly, just from understanding, patterns and just as a human would, right? And so for us, like the end game for us is you are able to talk or just chat with the system and saying something like, "Hey, I have an appointment today with Athin at 3 p.m. Central. We're going to talk about these three things. I'm going to send him an invoice afterwards, and the amount is going to be $500 USD. And then after that, I want to send a follow-up response to make sure that he can sign the agreement." Well, just from that conversation place, that's what you would tell, an assistant of some sort to saying, "Hey, you received it. Interpret what I just said and operationalize it." And so that person, as a human, would receive it, create an invoice, make sure that the calendar is on the, yeah, or the appointment's on the calendar. They're sending you a confirmation note. They're setting up the conference room. They're, like building all these stages. Well, think of that as an AI agent who can receive that. You're talking to essentially a CRM platform. You type all this in and it does all of those things. Then the next time you come in, you're saying, "Hey, can you give me the latest updates on Athin?" Just as you would go into a CRM, you're clicking into a menu, trying to get into their contact record and see everything. Just spits it right back at you. And now think about doubling down and doing it from a voice perspective, right? So that's where we see kind of the future going with AI and really how it plays into high level. But for us, it's how do we inject every aspect of AI within the platform? So much so, here in the States, it's our summer season. And so we actually created a campaign called the Summer of AI, where we are absolutely giving everything that's AI driven absolutely for free over the next couple of months because we believe in it so much that we want like no reason that you can't get on into it. Sometimes it feels like it's cost prohibitive or you don't want to spend more. Well, if you see the magic behind it, go ahead and try it out. And we're going to give it to you for free to try it out. And this comes into things of like, communicating with your leads and customers through AI, where it's hands off and it just knows how to conversate so that you can get it to the outcome, whether it's booking an appointment, closing a sale, or something like that. Creating websites, creating content, creating emails, um, responding to reviews, um, generating images, generating social posts, like all of that can be done all with AI and so much more. So, while we have kind of the building blocks today, we have a huge road ahead, and I'm excited to where it goes. But very soon, it's going to become the standard that, of course, there's AI. But I think it's a very fun moment in time for us just being in the thick of it.
Yeah, awesome, man. I love it. And yeah, I think it's powerful, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, ChatGPT or something like that, but you've integrated an AI and you've made it easy, basically, right, to be able to program, let's call it the AI, and do actions. And because you're a sort of end-to-end, all-in-one CRM type platform that does so many things, it can touch so many functions, like you said, right? So I think that's really
Yeah.
powerful without needing a developer or something like that, right? To be able to go in and actually AI the business. It's like it's already there. You just got to, tell it what to do basically, and it will do it.
Exactly. I think that's going to be the biggest transition as a generation. Becoming an engineer or developer was, something so skilled. This is the first time that we're actually seeing technology augment in such a way where you don't necessarily need to have that skill. What you really need to have the skill on is effectively communicating, right? And so this is where prompt engineering and having a strong background in, English or, communicating psychology will play a big role in AI. Um, and if you can clearly communicate, the execution will be, magnificent.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's awesome, man. And creating everything automatically, that's just like a dream. It's like, hey, do this, do this, do this, and it could take, everything like that. Um, and I've got an interesting question because I've had this come up for me. I'd like to know your perspective, right? Because I always think there's always some level of resistance, right? Like with platforms. And I know one of the things that I've heard is around simplicity generally, right? About platforms. And GoHighLevel is almost like a Swiss Army knife, right? It's got like everything, right? But you don't necessarily have to use everything because there's so many functions, right? So some people might go, oh, it's a little bit overwhelming, maybe it's a little bit too complex. I see it from the other perspective of like, well, it's all in one system. It makes it easy, right? You don't have to get APIs connecting to each other. It's probably going to be costs in that to send, transfer money, transfer, data, and that will cost you, and build things, and all of that type of stuff. But other people might like a simple system. So what would you say if people think that maybe it's a bit too complex for me? What's a better way of looking at it? And yeah, to be able to go, well, this is a better platform long term, because of these reasons.
Yeah, I mean, look, under the hood, we have every single feature that any business could need, and we're continuing to build and add more. But I do think it comes down to, how technology savvy that you are personally, and are you in the business of actually running a CRM, or are you actually in the business of delivering a service that got you into starting a business from the get-go? And depending on where your appetite is there, I think that's where the importance is of working with a partner of some sort. And I think, such as yourself, where you can partner with someone of you where you can understand the business use cases and how to implement it, and you kind of become the bridge on both sides. And I think where businesses really thrive is when, the business leader and the business owners know when to stay in their lane and when to not. And many times where I see people fail is when they probably stepped out of their lane and went too far away from what they need to do from a day-to-day perspective. And if they just work with somebody who can do that implementation, they'll be far more successful than where they started it.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love that. Really, really powerful. And I guess, yeah, man, you've shared so much value with us here today about the platform and all these different areas, and it's very exciting of where this is going. I'm looking forward to getting involved in the summer of AI, and having some fun with it as well. And I guess as we're starting to wrap up here today, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I like to tell entrepreneurs is, the game of entrepreneurship is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. And, stop trying to compare yourself to what other people have done or in how long they've done it. Everyone will be successful. It's just a matter of when you feel like you're successful. And so just keep your head down and just keep going, because what you think is not success is success for someone else. And so as long as you stay out of the comparison game, you're going to do just fine.
Yeah, I love that. So, so true. Awesome. Well, yeah, we connected, at your event in Sydney. As I said, it was an amazing event. You guys are creating one of the most unique platforms, and you're also developing it at such a speed, right? It's like you're listening to people, you're improving it, making it more robust, adding these features, everything like that. I don't think many, businesses can compete with that level of speed, that you're doing it at, which I think is a testament to, just wanting to always improve and create one of the best products, out there in the market. So, I love that. Looking forward to getting more involved with it, and very grateful, that we connected, and look forward to partnering with you. Yeah. So, Robin, how can people find you, get in contact with you, and get involved with HighLevel?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'd recommend is going to check out GoHighLevel.com. I mean, that's where all the information is about our website. Personally, you can reach out to me at robin@gohighlevel.com. I'm on every social media platform. You can find me. I'm easily accessible. Feel free to reach out to me. And if you have questions, I'm more than happy to talk and help you along your way.
Yeah, awesome guys. Well, definitely check out Robin there. Go to the website, gohighlevel.com, and check out the powerful, or, obviously if you need any help with implementing, feel free to reach out to me as well, as Robin was talking about from the agency perspective of that benefit of having that subject matter expert right on your team that understands your business, be able to implement it from there. And, he's giving you his email, social platforms, reach out. He's definitely very approachable, as are the other co-founders. Just great guys. So definitely recommend, as you can see here from the episode today, mate. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you for watching and listening to the Business Growth Show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you'd reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. So until next time, remember that our business grows where we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So let's create wealth and freedom together.